What's up, guys? It is that Panda Guy, and I'm here again with another video. And today we're going to be talking about our second part of this Archipelago raid. I do want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas real quick. I also do want to note that I am sick, so just in case I sound a little weird in this video, that is my explanation, okay? Yeah, I'm going to be sick on Christmas Day. Gotta love it. That being said, we kind of go into this, and basically how this worked is how I kind of closed at the last video. We had pushed these guys back to their checkpoint. We had pushed them inside, and this was during kind of the morning for us that they started kind of doing these pushes. It was really early morning, actually, and I was a bit lucky here because I did wake up right around the first rallies after they had dropped and stuff, so I did teleport up, and they were trying to quickly build to cut us off around the checkpoint, and try to cut us off from behind. I will say there were some major mistakes made on the Gold Legion's part. It wasn't really their Legion. It was mainly like, so basically what happened was there were two towers that were connected to this one tower that we had right here. It's the tower rallying and one more, like you can probably see it in the like top right corner. But basically, Crypt has his rider garrison there, and we're rallying this other garrison because, obviously it's much weaker. There's no whales in here, and they do hold on for quite a long time, But the thing is, they didn't really have a whale garrison, That's literally what you need. You always need that when you're kind of in a bracket like this, or at least comparable to who you're fighting, right? In our case, we do have some like heavy hitters, whereas like if this was a smaller bracket, the same thing still stands, right? If you have 150 million with, let's say, a 3 million rally hero, you need a 3 million or a 4 million, garrison hero in that tower, and you need them to be able to like properly like jump around. And I think Crypt is a newer kind of whale, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he'll get it down eventually. But he did, if he like, threw his like, let's say, best armaments on Ragoro and threw it in the tower, or even just ran his rider garrison back and forth, this really could have prevented us a lot of like kind of it would have hurt us a lot, or made it really hard for us to kind of make pushes, and this is something that we regularly do here, is like, we'll just constantly swap our garrison around and like the primary towers that are getting hit. And although it can be very annoying, and it's very time consuming because you're going to have to constantly be on top of that, constantly jumping back and forth, it does pay off. It does pay off for your your legions trades, your groups trades, whatever the case. And it makes it it makes everybody's job kind of easier. I mean, I would even apply the same thing with how we kind of run rallies here, especially in Archipelago Raid. We kind of have to make sure we're kind of getting everybody coordinate. In this case, we were very good at it, I think. We constantly had Kroos in the first rally, and right after that, we would have the two other rallies kind of go in. So this would make it to where we're kind of maximizing our trade-off. We have the biggest, strongest whale kind of tanking the rally, and then we have the other whale kind of hitting from the side, and then we would kind of have just a third rally kind of going, depending on if we had anybody else who could properly send a rally. But you guys get the point, right? And the second one rally gets counter rallied or something, we cancel them all and we keep resetting. And this is a very tedious process, but it does pay off in the whole trade volume thing. And like I said, it's very time consuming, so that can be one thing that's really like that might end up being like a downside for, let's say, these players who have to send the rallies. But at the end of the day, it does pay off for your Legion. It maximizes their trade-offs. And, they're not getting a bunch of needless deads or needless injuries, which might end up being the reason that you do win or lose the event. So, it really comes down to like how willing are you to be tedious in these kind of fights? You know what I mean? That being said, they did build pretty hard. I think they did try to drop a tower to cut us off, but at that point we kind of had gotten really situated here. We were swarming out most of these rallies. We did get a rider garrison finally in here, so we were able to play a little bit more flexible. The infantry is good and all. It's just tanky, but it's not really going to be something that's going to like pop these rallies at an extremely fast pace. So we were just trying to like put as much pressure here. And honestly, this had two purposes. Not only were we just trying to milk them, but we also just wanted to put the maximum amount of damage on these guys in the shortest amount of time. And I say this not only to just do damage, but to actually pull their attention off of sieging us, right? And this actually does kind of work to an extent. They stop kind of going on the full offensive. They do still go on the offensive, but it's mainly just like one or two rallies, and their main rally captains stop kind of sending rallies because they're kind of going on the defensive. They're using a lot of troops to actually, fill these counter rallies, and this is less troops they're able to get on actual rallies themselves. And, this is just something that we're trying to utilize, trying to like put a lot of our focus in. And I do think it overall did pay off for us. And like, this is why like being able to go on the offensive is so important, and this has happened many times before. Even in my case, like we'll be just forced on the heavy defensive, and the second you're like on the defensive, that's one thing, right? But once you're like trading really bad and you're just trying to drop every single rally, it's kind of like get out of there. You know what I mean? We honestly, honestly, in this case, if I was in the same situation, if I were in what's it called, gold shoes, I would have honestly probably ended up calling it a day at some point. Once you started having to go in the full defensive, couldn't go in any more offensives, and just been like, hey, we'll just do another push later. We'll do another push tonight. We'll do another push in the morning. Just save our troops, right? Because getting a bunch of millions of deads trying to hold these towers was pretty pointless, if I'm gonna be honest. You know, a lot of our trades were like 1 to 5, or it was like 3 to like, let's say 13, or 3 to 11, and it's just a really good trade off for us. And mostly our garrisons were actually trading relatively well. We were trading 1-for-1, mainly because we were actually swarming out a lot of these secondary rallies. We were just trying to take like one rally at a time to make sure our trade-offs weren't bad on the tower, and we were also trying to make sure we weren't having to swarm every single rally out. So we were trying to do our best to minimize our losses, maximize theirs, and it's kind of just the name of the game. I mean, that's how Archipelago Raid is played out. There's not really a whole lot for this video. I do think that once we get to our 2v1, you guys are really going to enjoy that. That was an insane fight. And honestly, I think we played that really well. And I mean, when I get to it, I'll explain how all that worked. Because I had so much planning behind it, and I wanted it to be so freaking perfect. But yeah, I was honestly kind of tempted to do this as a membership video just because a lot of it is tower sieging. I did so this is weird because I was thinking of it maybe putting another video in here, but my next video actually involved, I think, the 2v1 or something. So I was like, you know what, I'll just do the main one siege that they kind of attempted on us, and I'll move on to the next video after the fact. I mean, this was mainly like what happened that whole day. And I think then they just kind of decided to wait us out again. And honestly, that was the best choice I think they really could do. Playing around people like Big D or even Crow, because Crow has like a 6.5 million infantry. You know what I mean? Like, you want to try to play around players like these and just like avoid having to slam into their garrisons or take their rallies, or take like a multi-rally in this case, right? Because we're obviously, able to slam these towers. Even with Crypt, I'm gonna be honest, I do think that we were able to like still trade positive. I think it just like was really hard for us because I don't know if you guys had watched the last video, or you guys had I don't know if I showed in this video, but if you guys had watched the last video, I mean, you kind of see how the main rally that was tanking would just get absolutely annihilated and destroyed, but our other rallies would trade extremely positive. It was just like, it's not worth the trade-offs. You can still win those, but it's like, why lose more troops than you really need to when we know we can still win this with a pretty positive trade-off here? And honestly, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but that's really how we like to play here. Like, if I'm gonna be honest, this is literally how I base everything in Prime. I mean, when we go into fights, for example, I'm not trying to like, I'm fine to take bad trades for the win, but it's really like to an extent. I'm not gonna be trading like 1 to 10 in the negatives to try to like pull a win, which I know is gonna be impossible, right? Everything I do, like, we do try to maximize because might as well, right? Like, that's kind of the whole point of this game. That's kind of why you're doing everything. That's kind of why we're even like fighting here in the first place. But yeah, we try to maximize, and if we know there's like a bad, if it's like pointless to defend something, we're not going to defend it because we know like it's an ego hold at that point. I feel like so many teams in this game kind of ego hold. They're like, hey, let's just hold this to the death. And I'm like, what is the point of that? Like, you're trading, like in this case, like 1 to 7. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of their activity was still here. They were still sending rallies, so I can still give them that and say like, hey, they were still trying to go in the offensive, and they even tried to drop a tower to try to like cut us off. But we did obviously popping that tower as well. And honestly, at that point when they stopped and their momentum kind of burned down, and we kind of just started burning through all their fillers, I think that they really should have just called this off and been like, hey guys, everybody poured out. And this is honestly something that also I want to mention, is like making sure your players are aware, like, hey, don't stay here, or always be aware, like, hey, we're gonna probably have to pull out at any time, so don't end up logging off on these risky towers. And I will say, I actually think Gold did extremely well at this, because we had not caught many bases zeroed. Like, throughout this whole event, throughout all these pushes back and forth, they would do pushes, they would kind of get a lot of wiggle room, we would push them back, and what would happen? That we wouldn't get like almost no bases zeroed. We maybe 0, 2 or 3 bases, which that's nice and all, but that's really not a lot when you think about it. Like, these guys should have had more getting caught, and I think they did really good at like making sure their players were aware, hey, if you're sitting on these towers, you are most likely to get zeroed. And we kind of did the same thing And that's kind of what we like doing here. We just like doing these tug of wars. So, it's just kind of like, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for us. And by the way, guys, I know I haven't been uploading a lot as of like honestly the last few months. And I probably won't stay super consistent. I'm not gonna act like I will, but I have been kind of more excited with the recent fights lately. I feel like Prime's gotten in a really good spot. I feel like we've kind of powered up, and honestly, I might pick up my upload schedule a little bit more with just PvP videos. And it's just fun for me. So I'm gonna try to pick it up. We're gonna try to post some more of these and stuff. I'm gonna try to edit through them really quickly. And yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I've just been having more fun recently. I've been having some really good fights. Like even in this case, Genesis War, we had a crazy fight where we were registered maybe 7 billion. I'm not sure what this team was registered when we fought, because they were like 12 billion, but when they registered, I'm guessing they were around like 10 billion. But the fact that we were able to beat them, obviously we were losing on the field. Like at the end of the day, they are still like billions higher than us, but we did beat them in Genesis War, and it was a crazy fight. And like, I want that as a video. I'm super ready to kind of edit that and post that. I'm ready to post the 2v1 we had this Archipeligo raid. I've just had a lot of really good fights, and honestly, I've just felt like my team has gotten to a really good spot. I feel like we've done really good on recruitment, keeping players strict and stuff. I'm just really happy recently with like where we've kind of gotten Prime and stuff. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, it's just super satisfying to know like your efforts paid off. Like, big shout out to my R4 Kaz, by the way. He does all the recruitment here. He does all the kicking. He doesn't mind being the bad guy because he kicks people and then people hate him and they don't hate me instead. So he does all the kicking and he gets all the hate, and like, it comes with the game, and I can appreciate Kaz for taking on the back in my stead, Oh, either way, it's kind of just how the game works. I think you all have to find an alliance that kind of suits your play style. In our case, we like being very competitive. We don't want to be an Apex or anything either, so we do kind of try to register around like the top of Elite Warzone or like within that kind of area. We're not really trying to avoid these top brackets because it is fun for us, but we don't want to really get an Apex. It just isn't fun to fight like 50 T6 guys, or not T6, but like whales at a time. I don't mind fighting T6, but like freaking what mega whales nonstop is crazy. It is like a lot more fun as well when you kind of play in these top elite war zones, because a lot of these fights are kind of relied on by one or two main whales, right? So you literally have so much strategy that kind of comes in this, whereas like maybe in Apex it's not as much because it just comes down to who has the bigger wallet, and like you're always gonna have whales on around the clock. And I mean, the same goes for us. Our whales sleep at some point. These guys can do pushes on us. And it's kind of a back and forth, and I just find this more fun. I find the strategy more fun. I find the planning more fun here, and I do think it's like it's a bit better than like even smaller war zones like Fearless. Like you sometimes have outliers where there's a whale or there's like a T6 with full maxed out armaments and the other team doesn't, and it's just, this has made these fights really fun for me. I do want to end the video off here on a good note though. I do appreciate you guys for watching as always. You guys have a great Christmas and peace out.